Imagine you're a small child. Your parents sell you to the agents of a brothel, inside the walled pleasure quarters, created by the local dictator. Unless, against all the odds, you can find a way to buy yourself out of indentured servitude, you will spend your entire life as the property of a yukaku house. Domestic slavery is your daily reality. Lessons in how to become a skilled prostitute offer the only possible escape from. Who knows, perhaps, you can even become one of the high-ranking prostitutes, who are considered cultural celebrities, the Oiran. In this episode, we'll explore the life stories of 5 legendary Oiran. Iconic figures from history, who overcame impossible odds to achieve the status of minor nobility. But before we begin, let's clarify a few important details. Taiyu were especially cultured, elite-class prostitutes who served high-ranking samurai. About 1 in 1,000 girls managed to achieve the artistic skills necessary to earn this honorary title. But when the nobility began to suffer financial difficulties, and the wealth of merchants began to grow, Taiyu became rarer, especially in Edo's Yoshiura pleasure quarter. Quite simply, the cost of training Taiyu rendered them unprofitable. As a result, Oiran became the more common, generic name for the 3 upper ranks of prostitutes within the yukaku. Elsewhere in Japan, it took longer for this social shift to take effect, and as a result, many of the Oiran in today's episode retain the title of Taiyu, after their name. 1. The second, Takao Taiyu. The Miuraya family, owners of the largest yukaku house in Yoshiura, created a famous and long-standing brand with the title, Takao Taiyu. This became a hereditary title, passed down from the house's leading Oiran to the next across 11 generations. The second Takao Taiyu, sometimes referred to as Sendai Takao, was a highly accomplished woman, famous for her calligraphy and poetic compositions. She was a proud, righteous woman, who paid no attention to the arrogant behavior of her filthy rich clientele. Date Tsunamune, the feudal lord of the Sendai region, was captivated by her aloof attitude, and sought to make her his own. When a wealthy patron offered to buy a woman out of her indentured servitude, and pay off the cynically manipulated cost of her subsistence and training, this was called a miwuke. In most cases, this meant offering money that was equal in weight to the Oiran, plus a bonus of silks and valuable trinkets to the house. Tsunamune's initial offer to buy out Takao Taiyu received no response. She had secretly pledged herself to a rank-and-file samurai of the Tottori clan, who could not afford to release her from her insidious contract with yukaku, but had pledged to wait until she could release herself from indentured servitude. Therefore, his proposal went unanswered. Spying an opportunity to make a killing, the owner of the house asked Tsunamune to pay 500 million yen, or around $5 million, at modern rates of exchange. Reluctantly, the feudal lord agreed, and removed Takao Taiyu, against her will. But the former Oiran steadfastly refused to let him touch her. After 6 months of pleading and protesting, Tsunamune snapped, imprisoning her and threatening torture. Legend tells us that in the end, this proud, highly cultured icon was suspended upside down from a boat on the Sumida River, and hacked to pieces. It is very clear that she paid the ultimate price for the yukaku's opportunistic response to a man looking to exhibit his wealth and power with a living status trinket. Of course, the legend doesn't highlight that the real villain in this story is a system that grooms children to become the means of extorting vast sums from the super rich. But then, legends tend not to raise questions about the systemic abuse of wealth and power, as we know from recent headlines about the Epstein case. 2. Wusagumo Taiyu. In the late 17th century, one of the most famous Oiran was Wusagumo Taiyu. She adored her constant companion, Toma, a cat that accompanied her everywhere. When Wusagumo embarked on the lavish Oiran Dochu parade to meet clients each evening, Toma would slink along with her. They were so clearly inseparable that superstitious locals began to wonder whether Wusagumo was possessed by the cat. At that time, people believed that a dead cat could turn into a supernatural being, or yokai, capable of controlling its owner. One day, Toma followed his mistress into the toilet. Seeing this, the owner of the household burst in and beheaded the cat with a katana, or samurai sword. The severed head rolled into the soil pit and bit off the head of a lurking snake. Even in death, Toma had fulfilled the intention of protecting the Oiran. Devastated, Wusagumo buried her loyal companion and erected a statue carved from Kyoto wood imported from Kyoto. In ancient Japanese, Kyoto meant precious, and the wood is a highly aromatic source of incense. One theory suggests that Toma is the origin of Japan's famous beckoning cat figures, or mannequin-iko. A wealthy patron called Genroku paid 35 million yen, the equivalent of around $350,000, to buy out Wusagumo. History doesn't tell us anything about her life after that, but let's hope she lived long enough to become a crazy cat lady. 3. The second Yoshino Taiyu. The second Yoshino Taiyu was perhaps the only Oiran who was known abroad, having achieved the rank of Taiyu at the tender age of 14. The most famous of the 10 generations of Kyoto-based Yoshino Taiyus, she was a talented musician who played the koto, sho, and biwa. And she was almost as well known for her calligraphy, literary skills, and go-playing ability, as her exquisite beauty. In China, she was celebrated for the latter by the Ming dynasty. The most revealing bit of anecdotal evidence about the life of Yoshino concerns a gathering of 18 Taiyus, all decked out in their most elaborate finery, with perfect hair and makeup. Yoshino was late, prompting a servant to investigate. Finally, Yoshino made her entrance. She was wearing the kind of plain kimono worn around the house, with a black top and purple obi sash. Her hair was disheveled and she appeared to be half asleep. Even so, she sashayed through the gathering of fashionable icons, and took her rightful place in the seat reserved for the highest-ranking beauty. Speechless at first, it is said that the whole gathering of snobbish fashionistas conceded that the sleepy expression added an additional dimension to her unearthly beauty. She was also praised for her benevolence. The disciple of a famous swordsmith was hounded out of the Shimabara Yukaku after skipping dinner and offering his modest life savings of 80,000 yen, around $800, for a night with Yoshino. Taking pity on him, the Oiran invited him to fulfill his desire in secret. Ehara Saikaku, a prominent literary figure of the day, described Yoshino Taiyu as beautiful, wise, compassionate, and impeccable. At the age of 26, she was bought out and married a wealthy merchant named Hayasho Iki. Like thousands of less well-known young women, who grew up in the harsh, unhealthy environment of the Yukakus, she died at the age of 38, long before her renowned beauty faded. 4. Katsuyamatai. Katsuyamatai was an Oiran who emerged from the murky world of unauthorized, low-class prostitutes, found in public bathhouses. She quickly acquired a reputation for the most astute fashion sense in cool conscious Edo, earning the admiration of men and women. Although it is impossible to count the sheer number of trends she popularized, she is perhaps best known for the Katsuyama top knot. One evening, in the midst of an Oiran parade, a man cut off her hair tie. Whether he was a souvenir-hungry fan or a vengeful onlooker, history doesn't say, but he earned a rare look from the celebrated Oiran, whose long hair had fallen around her shoulders. Unruffled, she stepped into a tea house, where a servant curled up her hair again. To hold it in place, Katsuyama improvised with a chopstick. When she returned to the street and continued her parade, onlookers agreed that she appeared utterly relaxed, and even more glamorous than usual. Word spread through the Edo gossip network, and the wives of wealthy samurai, merchants, and commoners quickly began adopting this off-the-cuff look. It is said that she also enjoyed wearing men's clothes, and made improvements to the dot-era, or winter kimono jacket with a thick cotton filling. These Katsuyama-style dot-era initially found favor with men from Edo's elite classes, but very quickly spread. Of course, the opportunity to cash in on the Katsuyama brand was too good to resist, and her name soon appeared on everything, from obi sashes to gaiter straps. It's possible Katsuyama was a predecessor to the feminist, lesbian crossdressers of Weimar Germany's cabaret scene. We're told she was indifferent to love, refused to flirt with clients and rejected all offers to buy her out the yukaku. Who knows, perhaps, she was reluctant to leave a beloved housemate behind. When she did finally leave Yoshiwara, there is no record of what happened to Edo's brightest star. 5. Komura Taiyu. We're told Komura Taiyu was an exceptional waka poet, known for her gentility and grace, whose Oiran name referred to the 10th century master of waka, Murasaki Shikibu. Whether this was true or a clever marketing strategy, it's impossible to say. What is true is that despite stealing the hearts of countless men, Komura was devoted to her lover, Hiei Gongen. He was a low-ranking samurai who couldn't afford to visit Yoshiwara. Desperate to see Komura, and perhaps find some way to buy her out, he embarked on a campaign of robberies that eventually led to murder. In the end, he was caught and executed, which caused Komura to slip into a state of grief and depression, just as a wealthy tycoon was making an offer to buy her out. Of course, the cash-hungry owner of the yukaku attempted to coerce her into accepting the lavish offer. But on the day that the deal was agreed, Komura committed suicide beside the grave of Gongen. To this day, a stone monument occupies the spot where this courtesan poet met an untimely end. We don't know who paid for the monument, but we can be reasonably confident that it wasn't the greedy yukaku owner. Even in our modern world of social media and 24-hour news, it can be difficult to separate fact from fiction, marketing hype from verifiable truth. The surviving, fragmentary stories about these enslaved women almost certainly contain some value as parables. In Japan, few stories are told that don't serve the interests of a largely invisible elite. Even so, there is a familiar contradiction in the idealized image of women, who are willful, spirited, and tough, yet sexually available for a price. It is important for history to present these women, sold into sexual slavery as children, as artists, trendsetters, and empathetic defenders of the weak and powerless. It lends a certain nobility to what would otherwise be a series of grubby, unforgivable tragedies. Hard-boiled tales of sex trafficking, and cynical exploitation of the kinky power-crazed desires of wealthy elites that would make even Raymond Chandler blush. That is not to say that these women forged in the harsh environment of the yukaku were not exceptional, and don't deserve their lingering reputation as cultural icons. Against all odds, they rose to prominence, which suggests they all possessed a depth of character that was extraordinary. But as the saying goes, if you want the full truth, you really do have to follow the money.